Thank you for watching QTV with the news. My name is SUMBWE. We take a look at our top stories. Government has been cautioned to strictly stick to announced austerity measures in view of the third deferment of the goods and sales tax. The process to formulate a CCTV legislation for the country has formally begun. And now details in our news. Government has been cautioned to strictly stick to the announced austerity measures in view of the third deferment of the goods and sales tax. Former Finance Minister Katele Kalumba has warned that failure to do so will pose a serious challenge on the implementation of the 2019 national budget. Dr. Kalumba says the deferment of the sales tax to the 1st of September this year has created a funding gap, and therefore the objectives of the national budget may not be met. In an interview with QTV News, Dr. Kalumba states that the Finance Minister, Margaret Manakatwe, must in this case come up with some other ideas for raising revenue. Dr. Kalumba says there is also need to restore credibility in the fiscal policy announced in the national budget statements going forward. He says the fact that the sales tax has been deferred to 1st September entails that this tax will now be entering a new budget cycle.
If you postpone to September, what does that mean? You're going to a new budget cycle. That's what she means. It means that she has to announce another tax. And the question is how she'll meet the funding gap, which she had projected money coming from sales tax. That's the biggest challenge. And then the other challenge I've already mentioned, but for me personally, it's a question of whether or not this indicates that there had been adequate consultations to start with before it was even announced as a budgetary measure. I expressed concern. The first time it was announced, I expressed concern. I said, this requires a little bit more consultation because VAT is a refundable tax. We have to wait for the next budget cycle to hear what other ideas she'll have to come up with. As she has argued publicly, it's not acceptable. Sales tax is the one that is, and then it's not politically implementable, even if it may be technically sound. Then she has to come up with some other idea to raise revenue.
Government has formally begun the process of formulating a CCTV legislation for the country. Information and Broadcasting Services Permanent Secretary Chanda Kasolo says once enacted, the CCTV law will enable law enforcement agencies to use cameras to detect crimes. Mr. Chanda tells QTV News that this is the same law China uses to detect and abate crimes. He says government therefore wants to learn more from how China has been using such technology as it formulates the CCTV legislation.
Using eye recognition, the cameras are very, very sophisticated. They will see your eyes and actually have a digital print of you that this is Chanda Kasolo. And for instance, if I'm walking into China, they will scan my eyes, as he was walking in, and that goes onto a database. Now, if I commit a crime now in China, and they find that it's somebody on the street picks up the eye recognition, it will match to the database and actually give the details and say this is a man who has come from Zambia, his passport number is this, entered on this day, is due to go away on such and such a day. And it makes it very easy for the police to find him. Of course, it will take time for us to be that sophisticated, but we have to make a start. I think it is important as government that we are responsible enough to look at all technology that helps reduce crime.
Government has been challenged to explain why the court ruling that allows citizens to hold public processions without any undue permission from the Zambia police is still being ignored. Civil rights activist Berbna Changala is concerned that despite courts having ruled several times that citizens do not need a permit to hold public gatherings, the police has not been compliant to this ruling. Mr. Changala has observed that the police have continued with the practices of issuing permits when in fact the Public Order Act and the Republic Constitution provides otherwise. In an interview, Mr. Changala has told QTV News that he is now left with the conclusion that the Zambia police has allegedly become a fully pledged ruling Patriotic Front militia on government payroll. Mr. Changala has argued that this is because the police, despite being in state uniform, seem to be mutilating the provisions of the Republic Constitution itself. He thinks that this alleged anarchy should not, however, be accepted in a democracy.
They are doing the same again.
after a court ruling that Laura Meet and the colleagues didn't break any law. They followed the law. They notified the police. If they didn't want them to indeed really protest, they should have given them an alternative date. And the police are not even obeying the law to that effect. The police now, they have become a PF militia on government payroll. They are a militia in police uniform, for they are there now to mutilate the very constitution that protects Laura Miti, that protects Michael Zulu, that protects Pilato. We cannot accept this anarchy. And I keep on calling the people of Zambia. Sudan did it. Malawi has done it. Can we rise against this state-sponsored anarchy?
State House says it is for the good of journalists for the media in the country to regulate itself. Spokesperson Isaac Chipampe says this is in order that bogus journalists do not intrude in the journalism profession. Mr. Chipampe, who is the President's Special Assistant for Press and Public Relations, notes that State House will encourage the media in the country to regulate itself. He says this is with the expectation that once the media has its own regulatory body, it will equally play a role in addressing the issues of abuse of social media.
We shall encourage you to regulate and wish you well in your profession. But obviously, the issue of social media is something else. And like I said, it's just to educate the people. I think you yourselves as journalists, especially when you have your own professional board, you start educating people about the news values and what makes a news story credible. All those things, you are not seeing them with social media. Someone will just sit and concoct a story and put fictitious sources in there. But for us journalists, we're able to detect that this is bogus. Now, the ordinary people out there, some of them are just taking it as gospel truth. So those are things that we need to educate our people about.
The Higher Education Authority (HEA) and the Health Professional Council of Zambia (HPCZ) have agreed to sign a memorandum of understanding to harmonize their respective mandates. This follows the misunderstanding the two regulatory bodies had in November last year over some courses run by the Copperbelt University CBU. HEA Director General Stephen Simkanga says notwithstanding the HEA and the HPCZ are both acts of parliament, the two institutions have resolved to work together. Professor Simkanga has disclosed to QTV News that going forward, HEA will hold discussions with other regulatory bodies with the view of addressing similar misunderstandings it had with the HPCZ. He says the Ministry of Justice is thus going to be involved in these discussions.
Because it's not only HPCZ, General Nursing Council, Zika, all these, the human resources, associations, all these engineering institutions of Zambia, they have in them clauses that deal with accreditation of learning programs for those professions. So all those need to be put on the table and remove those aspects that are to do with accreditation of learning programs, sitting in these pieces of legislation, so that we have a streamlined way of accrediting learning programs, so that these institutions concentrate on the profession, the practice. That way, we avoid those misunderstandings that we had with HPCZ. Okay. But as we do that, we're supposed to work with this profession so that they bring in the aspects of the profession which can be incorporated in the learning programs. So that's where we're trying to go. Of course, the Minister of Justice must be involved in this matter.
Private Sector Alliance Acting Chairperson Lorian Hangala has noted the need for enhanced cassava production in the country as a means of enhancing food security and for economic development. Mr. Hangala says the private sector recognizes cassava as a nutritious crop that many Zambians consume and hence its potential to help enhance the country's food security as well and help government achieve the diversification agenda. He says cassava can also be used for the production of biofuel and various beverages.
In the cassava value chain, we have some very good investment, out of which we will, of course, enhance production of cassava by local farmers. Out of that, we'll have marketing mechanisms for buyers to buy the cassava, of course, for local consumption, but quite the bulk of it will be used in the processes and in the manufacturing processes around the country. It has potential for biofuels, it has potential for production of foods and other beverages and many other exciting opportunities that not only focus on the investors themselves, but also have got downstream developments for other private sector players. So we're very excited because now everyone is involved, from the local farmer even to mid-businesses that would like to come on board.
Bangweulu Member of Parliament Anthony Kasandwe has empowered about 500 headmen in his constituency with bicycles worth over 180,000 kwacha. Mr. Kasandwe explains that the empowerment is aimed at motivating and complementing the headmen and headwomen's efforts in the various works they do in heading the communities. The lawmaker says he has picked on headmen in his constituency after a realization that they are a section of people who are left out in various empowerments, especially compared to the women and youths, despite the important roles they play in the communities. Mr. Kasandwe says the empowering of the headmen with the bicycles is also in line with President Edgar Lungu's vision of leaving no one behind. He's optimistic that the bicycles that have so far been distributed in 9 wards of Bangweulu constituency will ease the movements of the headmen as they try to attend funerals, sicknesses, meetings, and other emergencies. We have more in this report.
A bicycle is one of the major modes of transportation driving development in both urban and rural communities of Zambia. For rural communities, a bicycle is not only a symbol of wealth, but it is an important tool for wealth creation at a household level, with numerous advantages in areas where the road network is bad and a public motor vehicle like a bus never reaches. Most of Bangweulu constituency's rural areas are such places where bicycles are a treasured asset, as they are the main modes of transport for the local communities. It is against this background that Bangweulu Area Member of Parliament Anthony Kasandwe has embarked on a project to distribute bicycles to headmen.
Well, in the past, a lot of stakeholders do empower people in my constituents. Women are empowered, the youth are empowered, but many are the times when headmen are usually left out. So in my own wisdom, I realized that the headmen, though we leave them out in most cases, they have an important role to play in the community. When there are meetings, when there are funerals, when there are other activities in the community, it is this same headmen and headwomen that we come to ask to help us mobilize the people. But as I've alluded to already, they are in most cases left out. And that is the main reason I decided that they should also be empowered in one way or the other, in form of bicycles, which they can use to go for their meetings, which they can use as they go to do their field work and carry their farm produces and so on and so forth.
Headmen and headwomen of Mwara and Kasanka areas of Kapata and Kapilima wards were the last of the 500 in the initial 9 wards of the first phase to receive the bicycles, and they had this to say.
Injinga mpira ba Honorable Bakasandwe yakungafwa kabitu nokulangafwa kuma politics bakasandwe nga bayisayise ku ngutumona edoka ichindi nokulafusha kono rupwa nango muntu alwala mumushi fulira mwafuirisha mafe na kwete nango aba meeting ba Honorable nga bayisa mukutisha meeting ili ngiri ngina refilo kwenda pantu patali mfuma kuma kutwingi kusashinda kuno kwa mwaba ngati mtuba tumane kwa mwaba nalekwa tasano kwa fya mkoinda
ishinari andi nene kabamba kipuru ikala pa kananda pa mwirakireya.
Okay, so mule omfashan pali njinge bampele
awe na omfashe bwino bakasandwe bantu besupe.
Okay. The lawmaker has since completed the distribution of the first 500 bicycles at a cost of over 187,000 kwacha.
In total, I've so far distributed 500 bicycles. At this center, I've given out 34, and that was the first, and that is the last zone that I'm distributing in the first phase. As you may be aware, I've already said I've only given 500 bicycles, but there are more than 4,000 admin. So first phase was 500, and as we go forward, we'll continue mobilizing for another 500 so that we deal with another 500 as long as God gives us the opportunity and the resources to mobilize these bicycles.
Nakaonga reporting for QTV News in Bangolu, Luapula Province.
National Association for Medium and Small-Scale Contractors has described the performance of the construction industry currently as favorable on the regional front and in the right direction on the local front. The organization's Secretary General Daniel Simumba tells Q News that Zambia's construction industry is competing favorably in the southern region, as can be seen from various constructions in terms of roads and infrastructure in the country. Mr. Simumba adds that on the local front, the sector is headed the right direction, especially following the presidential directive for the actualization of the 20% contraction policy. He explains that there is progress in the actualization of the policy, especially on the Copperbelt, where most local contractors have signed subcontracts with foreign or big construction firms.
Zambia, following the presidential directive to give 20% subcontracts to local Zambian contractors, I think we are moving in the right direction. Working together with the National Council for Construction, the Office of the President, Special Assistant for Project Monitoring and Implementation, Mr. Chela, and Mr. Nguruwe from the National Council for Construction. Some progress has been made in Copperbelt. A number of contractors have been engaged, have signed subcontracts, and we need to thank the President for issuing that timely directive, as it is now yielding the desired results. And going forward, this is what we need. We need to work together with our Chinese colleagues so that the Zambian contractors can also benefit from these projects being undertaken in the country. And we believe by working together with the Chinese, we stand to benefit through technological transfer and skills transfer to our people in Zambia. And this is how it should be. And we hope to work in harmony with the Chinese colleagues so that we develop this country together. I think there is no need to fight. All we need to do is work together and ensure that there is a 50-50 win situation.
The Lusaka City Council has with immediate effect stopped accepting hard copy applications for permissions to develop, subdivide or consolidate change of land use. This follows the expiry of June 30th, 2019 deadline, which was set after launching the automation of the construction permitting system on the 4th of January this year. Lusaka City Council Public Relations Manager George Chimba says clients will from now on have to send soft copy applications online and monitor the progress online. He says feedback from the council will also be given online, including the fees to be paid, which could be paid through the banks or other payment platforms which have been introduced.
Clients that intend to develop land, that is, or consolidate or subdivide or change of land use, will no longer be required to submit hard copy applications, because these hard copy applications were taking so long and they were just too bulky, and in certain instances they could even go missing. And so Lusaka City Council launched this system so that people can submit soft copies online and monitor the progress. This is very interactive. You can see the stage at which the application is and the officer who is handling your application at that particular moment. So we assigned 6 months for us to sensitize members of the public, and we feel that we have done enough sensitization, and it's time now to stop accepting hard copies.
Chipata District has recorded a 7% increase in maize production in the 2018-2019 farming season, despite the country experiencing prolonged dry spells. District Agriculture Coordinator Philemon Lungu has disclosed that the district has this year produced 2.3 million 50 kg bags of maize, compared to last year's produce of slightly over 2 million bags. Mr. Lungu has told QTV News that this is owing to the fact that the district received better rainfall in the 2018-2019 farming season than it did in the last season. He, however, notes that Chipata District has recorded a decrease in the production of soya beans.
terms of soybeans production, we have recorded a little bit of a reduction, because last year we had about 370,000 by 50 kilogram bags, whilst this year we have about 280,600 by 50 kilogram bags. The district also produces tobacco. I think we have 2 buyers this season here in Ichpata. That is, we have one, Japan Tobacco International. They are buying barley tobacco. We produce 2 types of tobacco, barley and the flue-cured Virginia. So JTI is buying barley tobacco, and we also have Pemba Tobacco Company.
The project to construct fabricated health posts has resumed in Milenge district of Luapula province. Milenge Member of Parliament SUMBWE says works have since commenced for 4 out of 8 health posts government allocated his constituency from the 650 being installed countrywide. Mr. Mbulakulima says people of Milenge are therefore only waiting for the commencement of the construction works for the other 4. He spoke to QTV News in an interview.
You recall that 4 provinces, Northern, Michinga, Luapula and Northwestern, we didn't have these projects going on until now.
Okay.
And I'm glad to say that in Luapula, Milenge in particular, the projects have started off. Out of 8, 4 are on the ground. Okay. And we are just waiting for the implementation of the other 4. Okay. And I think this is good. And I think that this has cheered the people of Milenge.
To end the news, we recap on stories making headlines. Government has been cautioned to strictly stick to the announced austerity measures in view of the 3rd deferment of the goods and sales tax. And the process to formulate a CCTV legislation for the country has formally begun. On that note, we end the news. Thank you for watching.